Hi, my name is Amy Robinson and this is my 10-minute learning journey followed by my answers to the questions. So my journey as a learner started when I arrived at university. I came with quite a fixed mindset. I was used to a routine that was forced upon me by teachers and guardians. My implicit theory also saw university as a social aspect of my life rather than an educational aspect. I behaved in a way that was influenced by others, and this can be linked to social learning theory and the idea of modelling. I did copy their behaviour by attending the lectures that my friends attended and missing the ones that they missed. I also thought that I would just achieve praise by just turning up to the lectures. Now, reflecting back, I soon realised that in order to do well at university, I had to adapt and acquire this idea of a growth mindset. I had to attend all lectures, take part, and ask questions. And by having this growth mindset, it meant I was able to accept criticisms, embrace challenges, and most importantly meant that I had a desire to learn. And developing these skills very early on in my course helped me massively with third year. As due to the current pandemic, the social aspect of university has gone. Everything is online, and in lockdown, we can't see our course mates or our tutors to ask for help. It's on ourselves to get the help that we need. One of the most important aspects of my learning over the 3-year course has come from my placement from first year. I was in a secondary school and told to shadow the special educational needs assistants, who I will later on refer to as SEN assistants. I struggled with this placement as I wasn't really learning anything, with me just sitting at the back of the classroom and listening in. I figured that in order to make something of my placement, I needed to change my approach. So when I learned about the systematic approach in my cognitive psychology modules, I realised that I needed to adopt this approach. I hatched a systematic plan, and I went in and asked if I could speak to the assistants about their jobs and what they had to do. And I also asked if I could get more involved with the children's learning, albeit when it was appropriate. By doing so, I learnt about the importance of SEN workers and was able to get an insight into the different teaching styles that are adopted by SEN teachers. By adopting this systematic approach, I was able to make placement an environment that I found interesting and wanted to be in. Rogers said that significant learning takes place when the learner is interested, and for me, this theory is 100% accurate. Personally, I feel that this placement has helped me with my confidence and resilience. Through approaching my placement with this new systematic approach, I was able to create a plan that would ensure I got the most out of it. I had to be confident when going in and asking the SEN staff if I could ask them about their job roles and what they do. And throughout the placement, my resilience strengthened. I did stick to the placement and I didn't give up, despite me not being that engaged to begin with. I also showed adaptability as I was prepared to make the changes within the placement, as I wasn't quite happy with how it was going. So each side, me and the placement, both made adaptations and we met in the middle, and it worked for all of us. For me to develop professionally in the future, I would hope to go into a placement setting with a plan of action from the get-go. That would enable me to get the most out of the placement. For me, the most meaningful aspect of learning resulted from the social inclusion and the counselling modules. I arrived at university with my own set of core values. I had certain views that could be argued about with my peers, and once again, this brings in this idea of a fixed mindset. I held this fixed mindset at the beginning of my modules, and I was not able to make the link between the two and struggled to understand the importance. But through developing this growth mindset, I was able to understand the relationship between theory and evidence and was able to make the links during my placement in second year, which was at the youth club. Learning about positionality in the social and exclusion modules helped me with understanding the kids at this placement and their positionality within society. On the counselling modules, we learnt about core values, and this helped me furtherly understanding the kids, as not only did I understand their positionality within society, I understood their values. And the learnt knowledge from both of these modules helped me speak to the kids in a way that didn't seem fake to them. I understood them, I could properly talk to them. My transferable skills were also developed during my placement as I could adapt to working with new kids in a new environment. Looking back, a massive barrier to my learning in second year was my living arrangement. One of my flatmates was struggling massively with their mental health. It got to the point where I was getting up during the night to look after her and take them home during the daytime, which led to me missing a lot of university. And with me not being at university, it also meant that I wasn't seeing my course mates. With me only just making a good bond with them in second year, this meant that I did fall out of touch with them, making it harder for me to ask for their help when needed. I saw a massive decrease in my grades and my own mental health. But for me, a big thing that helped in this situation was the knowledge I had already acquired from the counselling modules. It meant that I was able to talk to my flatmate in a way that they found helpful. I showed good practice by engaging with them, using active listening, maintaining eye contact, and by asking them open questions to understand how they truly felt. And once I had done all this, I was able to then go on and get them the help that they needed. I feel that this situation helped me massively with my resilience, as I could have easily dropped out myself. And as a learner, I have developed massively after this situation had been sorted. I became determined to do well due to this growth mindset that I had adopted earlier on. I was less afraid to ask for help, and I could accept any criticisms in order to improve my final grades for the year. And with COVID happening, it meant that I could adapt more and I could accept this online criticism, as it's a lot easier to accept online criticism rather than it being face to face. A key area for me to develop would be my confidence around asking my peers questions during this situation, as I'd be less likely to have fallen as far behind and would have been more on track if I felt that I could ask them questions. Through reflection of my own learning, it is obvious that during third year, my core attributes have all increased. The current pandemic has meant that we have had to adapt to this new style of learning. And this learning is online, therefore increasing my creativity. I'm not just sitting in a lecture hall with a pen and paper. I'm having to log into Zoom calls, log into lectures online and on Blackboard Collaborate. The tutors have obviously also been rushed off their feet with making everything available online, but doing so has meant that for us students we have felt a lack of support. Previously, we have been given clear titles and structures to follow for our assignments, and it has been a lot easier to ask tutors for help. Previously you could just stay at the end of a lecture or seminar to ask them for help. The barriers we had faced in first and second year seem minor compared to this year. With this in mind, I would say that my confidence has increased massively, as I have had to ask questions during the Zoom lectures which have been in front of the whole course, when previously I would just sit around and wait until it was one-on-one. The knowledge learned in first and second year has helped me to be more resilient and get through third year so far. It would be easy to drop out or defer a year and start again when everything is a lot more clearer. By developing my core attributes, I would say that I have improved my own way of learning I have taken a new approach to learning and organised it in such a way so that I am able to comfortably complete tasks and assignments on time. On a whole, I have learnt a lot from my undergraduate course and have developed as a learner in many ways. I have become adaptive in terms of my learning. Previously, I would have given up if I faced any barriers that I am being faced with now. I feel that I can confidently adapt to new styles of learning and teaching. Through completing 2 placements, I have both acquired and developed existing skills at a professional level because I have been within that professional environment. Learning about the idea of having a growth mindset has helped me to become more aware of myself as a learner and how I learn best. That's the end of my learning journey. Now on to the questions. So, question 1. With reference to your placement, please can you demonstrate how learning theories help you to understand the needs of learners? Learning theories can help us with understanding a lot of things. They can help us with understanding how people learn and can also help us with explaining the reasons behind their learning. As mentioned earlier, my first year's placement was at a secondary school. I shadowed SEN assistants and got a massive insight into how SEN pupils were taught. During this placement, the theory of scaffolding helped me with understanding the needs of these learners. Scaffolding is all about showing the learner what they have to do until the learner starts to understand, gradually takes responsibility of the task until they are able to take full responsibility and can complete the task alone. Scaffolding has helped me with understanding SEN pupils' needs. They needed hands-on work, hands-on help, hence the helper always being nearby. They also needed consistent guidance in order to make sure that they understood their work. So, for example, during one physics lesson, I was helping a Year 7 pupil make a basic circuit. Now, it took me 3 or 4 times of them watching me make the circuit for them to then get involved. It was not until after 2 or 3 more times of us making the circuit together that the handover happened, and then the responsibility was then on them to make the circuit. Love and Wenger's theory of community and practice emphasised the social aspect of learning. This theory helped me with understanding the needs of the kids in my second year placement, which was the youth club. They couldn't learn from textbooks or simply write an essay. For them to learn, they had to work together as a group, sharing ideas in order to develop their understanding. They all needed to engage with each other properly to learn. We quite often played bench ball or similar sports like basketball, netball with the kids, and this helped them with their team building and then helped them with their learning. They were able to learn as a team. Piaget's theory of constructivism also helped me within this placement to understand the kids' needs. He suggested that knowledge isn't fixed or stable but is constructed. In order to gain a full understanding of something being taught to someone, assimilation must occur. This theory helped me with the teaching on this placement, especially when we were teaching them maths. They needed help through every step every week. It wasn't a case of picking up from the previous week where we left off. It was a case of going through the same work every day with them and going through the same work step by step. Now on to the second question. How have you demonstrated the knowledge, skills and understanding gained on the course during your 3 placements? During first year, the placement that I went on at the secondary school, I could demonstrate my knowledge gained from the social and exclusion modules, and I could do this in a professional manner within the placement due to the terms that we had learned. So, through learning the correct terms for a wide range of pupils during this module, I knew how to communicate properly with the pupils and the staff. Even learning about terms that were unacceptable to use helped me with discipline. Within the placement, I could confidently help students with correct words to use if they'd asked me. Sometimes the kids would come and ask me, "Miss, am I allowed to use this word? Miss, am I allowed to use that word?" And I could confidently say, "Yes, you are," or "No," and then give a suitable word for them to use. And I could also tell them off if they were using a word inappropriately. During second year, my understanding of the skills learned from the counselling modules were demonstrated through the way that I was talking to the kids at the youth club. The kids were from disadvantaged backgrounds, and quite often they did need someone to confide in, because most of them didn't have a mother or father figure that they could talk to, or were involved in gang crime, and it was seen as bad to talk about your feelings to your friends. With the counselling skills in mind that I had learnt, it meant that I could work sensitively and closely with the kids and talk to them about any ongoing issues. With ethical guidelines in mind, of course, I did make the kids aware that if any of the information they passed on to me regarding themselves needed to be taken further, then I would have to do that. I would have to speak to my placement supervisor. During my third year placement, I have demonstrated good communicational skills at a professional level, which I have learned throughout my first and second year of my undergraduate course. Whether that be from talking to peers during lectures or seminars or outside of university, or tutors during the seminars or through email, or on my previous placements. I made the initial connection with my placement, and I'm constantly asking them questions to ensure that I am on track with where they want me to be. My transferable skills have also developed during this online placement. I have been able to work as part of their team despite not being there in person. Now for question 3. How have your placement experiences helped you to identify your strengths, areas for development, and aspirations for future employment? My placement in first year was a challenge to begin with, as I mentioned earlier. It wasn't engaging, and I felt there wasn't much pre-planning upon my arrival. From this, I have developed my resilience. It would have been very easy for me to give up and make excuses for not turning up. This shows that I can stay motivated even when I am not fully engaged. As I mentioned earlier, I did create a plan that would enable me to do well, and this plan helped me to stay committed and motivated and achieve a good grade at the end of the module, even though I wasn't completely engaged at the start of my placement. Within future employment, I would aspire to be this reliable and come across this committed. And this learning curve around my placement has given me a good insight into ways that I can be. I can talk to my peers about approaches that they're taking if we might not find the work engaging. I can talk to my boss. I can talk to even family and friends. An area for development would have been my communicational skills regarding this learning curve. I didn't really speak to the university about the difficulties I was facing. Instead of talking to the university, I sat there and struggled through a third of my placement before sorting out my own plan. Whereas if I'd have spoken to the university a little earlier, I wouldn't have been wasting a third of the placement. I would have been learning from the get-go. During second year, my placement was a lot more hands-on. The kids were very, very challenging, and they definitely kept me on my toes. A key strength that I showed through this placement was adaptability. I could adapt to this new environment and took on any challenges thrown at me by the kids. Previously, I have been used to working with kids that abide by the rules straight away. There might be an odd kid that had a disadvantaged background, but they had tons of support because they were one, or there was always one or two of them in a whole school. Whereas this setting, all of the kids needed your full attention at all times. And I was able to adapt to this, and I was able to work with the kids in a suitable manner and was praised for this at the end of my placement. Through communicating with the kids in a confident way, I did manage to maintain a professional relationship, which I would say is very hard in this environment, as if you acted as a teacher, they wouldn't listen to you. If you acted as their friend, they wouldn't listen to you. If you acted extremely stern, they wouldn't listen to you. For example, one day the kids weren't listening to anything that us or the placement supervisors were saying. So the placement supervisors said they would take action. This led to us, the students that had arrived from university, locking ourselves in a room upstairs as the kids started to kick off, and social workers had to be called and people were kicked off the placement. So for future employment, I hope that I am able to adapt to new environments such as this, as I found this placement very interesting and have realised that I do want to work with kids that are more challenging and are from disadvantaged backgrounds. I do want to help them, and I do want to help getting kids back into the education system, as I now understand how important it is after gaining that growth mindset that I mentioned at the start. An area for development would be with communicating with the quieter kids on this placement. The loud kids were easy to talk to and build a good relationship with, as they were talking 24/7. They always wanted the attention on them, and it was so easy for me to give them my attention. I needed to work on my time management during my placement in order to speak to the kids equally and give them all equal attention and get the most out of my placement. During third year, my placement has been online, and experiencing this has helped me massively with my technological skills. I have had to be proactive and reach out to them, which has increased my confidence. I have been able to develop my time management skills, which in my previous placement I struggled with, as in previous years we would be given timetables for our placement, whereas now we have to incorporate our placement into our weekly routine. I would say that I also need to improve my interpersonal skills. With not being able to maintain face-to-face communication, I am not aware of when it is appropriate for me to make contact. I could be bombarding my placement supervisor with emails on a day where they are being bombarded by pupils and staff and other workers, whereas seeing the placement supervisor face to face in a school, I would know when they were free to talk, and they can also say to me, listen, I'm not free to talk today, can you talk tomorrow? Or send me an email tonight and I'll get back to you. With future employment, I hope that I can develop my interpersonal skills online, as it is most likely that online learning and working will be the way forward for the next few years. Now on to my fourth and final question. With reference to relevant graduate attributes, which professional skills and qualities have you developed during lockdown learning and online placement? Through lockdown learning, I have been able to adapt to this new style of online learning, therefore showing that I have a good flexibility around learning and my time management skills have increased. I have taught myself a new method of learning by making sure that I attend all online Zoom calls and collaborate calls and lectures, and making sure that I have enough time to complete my work on time. I would say that lockdown learning has helped me to become more efficient as a learner. Each week I have been making a weekly plan of stuff that I want to get done each day, and I've been ticking it off, whereas in previous years I've just sort of left it to the tutors to be telling us what we need to do and when we need to do it. Without this face-to-face learning, it has been a lot of the work has been up to me to complete. My resilience has massively increased during lockdown learning. It would be easy to defer a year, however, I have remained motivated and have engaged with my peers and tutors. I am determined to do well, whereas in previous years I have lacked motivation as all the work has sort of been handed to me on a plate. The online placement has helped me massively, as it has given me an insight into what future work placements or employments might be like. I might have to do interviews online, which I am now prepared for because of the Zoom course that I have with my tutors for the modules and the Collaborate course that I have each week regarding my research project. And these calls can last from an hour to 3 hours. And I have been able to stay motivated and engaged throughout the entire time of these calls, which has meant that in future I will be able to stay motivated just during a simple call. I will also be able to stay motivated in a conference call that may last for a couple of hours. I will have to communicate with work colleagues via phone calls and emails, which I am now a lot more used to, and I am more used to talking in a professional manner via emails, especially due to my placement being totally via email and online at the moment. That is the end of my questions. Thank you for listening.